Hey everyone, welcome. Today we're diving into something we all struggle with, how to make hard choices when everything feels urgent. We're going to walk through three powerful, structured techniques that bring some serious clarity to the chaos. So let's get to it. I mean, you know the feeling, right? We've all been there. Your to-do list is just endless. Your inbox is a nightmare, and every single thing feels like a top priority. It's that classic feeling of being completely overwhelmed by all these competing demands, not just at work, but in life too. So the big question is, how do you even begin to choose what to do first? Okay, now take that feeling and imagine the stakes are literally life and death, because that is the day-to-day reality for public health departments. Think about it. They're facing massive budget cuts while they're fighting everything from chronic disease to full-blown pandemics. When lives are actually on the line, you can't afford to just guess. You absolutely need a system.
All right, so before we even get to the cool tools and techniques, we have to do some prep work. You've got to lay the groundwork first. This isn't just about scribbling down a list of things to do. No, it's about building a solid framework so that whatever decision you make is fair, objective, and actually effective. So this groundwork really boils down to three key things. First, you got to assess the situation, like what's really going on? What does the data say? Second, you need to clarify your objectives. What are we actually trying to achieve here? What does a win even look like? And third, and this one is crucial, you have to establish the criteria for your decision. This third step is the secret sauce for taking bias out of the equation. Okay, take a look at this. What's so smart about this approach is how it splits up the criteria. See, you've got one set of rules for figuring out the problem itself. Things like how urgent is it, how big is it? But then you switch to a totally different set of criteria, like cost and feasibility, to judge the potential solutions. By setting these rules up front, you get everyone on the same page from the get-go. It's a fantastic way to pull personal opinions and bias right out of the discussion.
Okay, groundwork is done. Now we're ready for the fun stuff. Let's dive into our first technique, multi-voting. The easiest way to think about this one is like a quick democratic vote. It's designed to take a super long, overwhelming list of options and boil it down to just a handful that really matter.
And you know, the real magic of multi-voting is this. An idea that everyone kinda likes, even if it's nobody's absolute favorite, can actually win. It's brilliant because it stops that one really loud, passionate person from dominating the whole conversation. It's all about finding what the group actually agrees on. And the process itself couldn't be simpler, really. Here's how it works. Everyone in the group votes on the big list of options. Then you just chop off the items with the fewest votes. Poof, they're gone. You take that shorter list and you vote again. You just keep repeating that cycle until a clear winner pops out.
Okay, let's see how this plays out in the real world. So this public health department started with 12 different things they could focus on. 12! In the first round of voting, they made a simple rule. If an item gets less than 3 votes, it's out. And just like that, boom, they cut their list in half. 12 options became 6, just in one go.
And here's where you really see the power of this method. In round 2, with only 6 items left, people can focus their votes much more. So another 3 items get the axe. By the time they hit the final round, they're down to just 3 choices. It makes it so much easier to see which one is the real priority.
And there we have it, the winner. They went from a dozen things that all seemed equally important, and by using this simple, structured process, they found the one project they needed to focus on. See, this isn't about guessing. It's about building a consensus step by step.
All right, on to technique number 2. If multi-voting is all about finding group agreement, then the strategy grid is all about finding the biggest bang for your buck. It's an awesome visual tool for when you've got to make smart choices, especially when money and time are tight.
I mean, let's be real, this is perfect for any team with limited capacity. So yeah, pretty much every team on the planet. What it does is force you to think beyond just what's important. It makes you ask, what can we actually get done?
So how do you build one of these? It's easy. You just pick 2 key criteria to measure things by. The classic combo is need versus feasibility. Basically, how badly does this need to be done versus how easy is it for us to do it? You put one on the vertical axis, one on the horizontal, and that creates your 4-quadrant grid. Okay, let's throw a couple of examples on the grid to see how it works. A high blood pressure screening program, right, in a community where stroke rates are climbing, well, that's definitely high need. And it's pretty easy to do, so it's also high feasibility. That's a no-brainer, a clear winner. But what about something like providing dental care where nobody has insurance?
The need is super high for sure, but the feasibility, that's really, really low. The grid makes you see those trade-offs instantly.
And this is the best part. Each box, each quadrant, basically tells you what to do. If something lands in high need and high feasibility, that's your top priority. Do it now. High need but low feasibility, that becomes a long-term project, something you plan for. And the stuff in the low need, low feasibility box, that's your stop doing this list. Just drop it and free up those resources for something that matters more.
All right, time for our final tool, and this one is the most powerful of the three. It's called the prioritization matrix. This is the one you pull out when things get really complex, when you've got a bunch of different criteria to judge by, and here's the key, some of those criteria are way more important than others.
Yeah, this matrix adds a whole new layer of smarts to the process. It goes beyond a simple yes or no. It doesn't just ask, does this tick the box? It asks, how well does this tick our most important boxes? It's all about that secret ingredient, waiting.
So building one of these is basically a four-step deal. First, you list out all your options and all your criteria. Simple enough. Second, you rate each option against every criterion, on a scale of like 1 to 5. Then comes the magic part. You give each criterion a weight to show how important it is. And finally, you just do some simple math to get a final, totally objective score for each option.
And honestly, that weighting step is where all the power is. See, it's not enough to just rate stuff. You have to have that tough conversation and decide what really matters. Look at this example. The team decided that importance to the customer was 3 times more important than linkage to strategic vision. That's a huge decision. It makes sure the final score isn't just some random number. It's a number that truly reflects what the team values most.
So here's what the finished matrix looks like. You can see it all laid out. Each project gets a rating, and that rating gets multiplied by the weight of that criterion. You just do that for every box, add them up across the row, and bam, you get a final score. And in this case, you can see media strategy wins with a 7.5. The math makes the decision for you.
So, there you have it. 3 different tools, from a super simple vote to a pretty complex matrix. You might be thinking, wow, that's a lot of work. Why not just go with your gut? Well, the answer is simple. Really, it's about making smarter choices that create a much, much bigger impact.
At the end of the day, these tools are about so much more than just making a list. They force you to swap out those vague gut feelings for hard, objective criteria. They turn what could be a huge argument into a really productive conversation. And what you end up with is a decision that's not only smart, but one that everyone understands and can stand behind. It guarantees that your precious time and money are going exactly where they can do the most good.
So what's the bottom line here? Look, whether you're running a massive project or just trying to figure out your week, the goal is exactly the same, to bring a little bit of clarity to all the chaos. So I want to leave you with a question to think about. What's the one problem, big or small, in your world that you could finally solve if you just took a moment to choose a little more deliberately?